the Hall of Fame, you won't find your name.
Hello guys, as I'm sure you've noticed, the Sonic.exe video still isn't out despite me dropping the trailer about 3 months ago now. But don't worry, I'm still working on it, and the editing is just going to take a bit. So, in the meantime, I thought I'd make another one of these minis to address another creepypasta entity that tons of people think is this like Cthulhu-like god-like being that stomps all of creepypasta. Zalgo. From matches with the Cthulhu mythos, SCPs, Scarlet King, to Stephen King characters like Crimson King, this guy is often paired up with the Eldritch sort of reality warping characters from these powerful verses like he has a hat in the ring. But, alas dear viewers, I must tell you that this really isn't the case. First off, a lot of supposed lore for Zalgo comes from non-canon sources and authors that had nothing to do with the original project. This is the same problem that plagues most other creepypastas from around this era, so it's really not that uncommon. In actuality, Zalgo is not some reality warping dimensional mega threat as the internet might have led you to believe. You see, Zalgo was originally made by a guy named Shmorky, I think it's pronounced. In his original appearances, Zalgo disturbs several popular syndicates such as Garfield, Archie, Heathcliff, and more. Interestingly enough, different alterations in these OG appearances aren't as we've come to expect from Zalgo these days. For example, there's a lot of shock value things thrown in there like slurs, real photos of gore, sexual innuendos, you name it. Though that's not to say it doesn't have the stereotypical Zalgo text and monsters and tentacles, but yes, be expected. I've left these comics down in the description if you guys want to check them out. Shmorky also released a video titled Zalgo that featured several more of these types of comics, just this time in video form. Here, we get the same tentacle mess and interruptions as before, nothing really different. And with that brings us to the end of all canon content for Zalgo. Yes, that's it, really. For time purposes, I didn't cover every Zalgo comic in detail, but nothing really spectacular happens. Just a lot of transmutation and possibly slight reality warping. The latter may sound cool, but considering that nothing large scale happens, it's really not that good, all things considered. To make things even worse, the author has stated that Zalgo is simply something awful. It has nothing to do with Lovecraft whatsoever. This, in and of itself, may not mean anything, but when you take in the context of the quote about how people were speculating that the monster was something akin to Lovecraft, aka the Cthulhu mythos, it becomes crystal clear that Zalgo was not intended to be some powerful eldritch being like people picture him as today. The guy was also said by the author to only be able to distort the comics and shows he appears in, and explicitly is not able to affect the real world in any manner. So yeah, it's looking pretty tough for the supposed king of creepypasta. The only possible saving grace you could maybe try to stretch for Zalgo is how in one of his Archie comics, he is said to be able to bring the end times.
Archie, my boy, you just don't get it. These are the end times. We got to be prepared. Zalgo! Zalgo is upon us, Arch! Zalgo!
Even ignoring him being restrained to fictional spaces, what this statement means is pretty vague. Will he blow up the Earth? Corrupt it? The universe? Only life wipe? It's simply too hard to quantify it as a sort of feat. If you were to ask me personally, I think it would likely be corruption based on everything we know about Zalgo. There's also the fact that he's never been seen destroying anything in the comic whatsoever, just merely transmutating them as I said earlier. So, to summarize, Zalgo would be 11A, also known as High Hyperverse level. Put simply, this means that Zalgo is two-dimensional essentially. This follows because as previously shown, Zalgo can only affect fictional settings. As far as speed, it's pretty much unknown because there's really no feat to base it off of. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Zalgo. The canon one, that is. It should be noted that while he is extremely overhyped power-wise, it still is a very interesting concept, the corruption of innocence motif. If you think about it, you can see the influence of Zalgo throughout media. I mean, just look at pIt. It's the exact same concept, but on a larger scale. I mean, you have all those lost episode creepypastas, Sonic.exes, and many more. I don't think I need to go on. They all in one way or another draw from the will that is Zalgo. So, even though he may not be the strongest or most impressive, because of what he represents, I'd say Zalgo deserves his title of King of Creepypasta.